sitting here on my break time in my loader, sitting here next to the crusher, and I've been wanting to make this video for a little while. It was a topic that off and on I think about. First off, understand a little bit about my background. It's not that important, but just so you know where I'm coming from. And I'll try not to make this too long of a rambling video. But anyhow, just sitting here thinking out loud and wanting to share my thoughts once again. Now, I just did a thinking out loud video a couple days ago, and it was about my thoughts on low carb and diet and processed foods and things like that. And YouTube deleted it almost immediately as it was put up, and then responded. It was a 30-minute video, thinking out loud type video, and then when I did my appeal, within 5 minutes I got a message. The appeal has also been rejected. So I know AI went through that video, and I didn't say anything that's not been said in many other videos. People talk about nutrition, low carb, carnivore, keto, processed foods, processed oils, things like that. So whatever, you know, medical misinformation about information. It's just information. Now, people are well aware how technology is being used to really censor people, and the reason for censoring is so you can't share your ideas and thoughts, no matter how politically incorrect or offensive or incorrect they may be. They're trying to protect you from being able to share your thoughts. Why? It's just thoughts. Why? Because they want to control how you think. Well, you know, the whole AI thing and stuff like that. Well, then there's the whole transhumanist agenda of wanting to tie people into the Internet of Things and to make us all part of the Borg, if you will. And it's one thing, technology is awesome, but I don't want to be part of it. It's one thing if you lost a limb or something, you have a bionic limb or something, that's cool. Or if you lose your eyeball, they can give you an a bionic eyeball, like the Bionic Man when I grew up watching. Okay, cool, that's awesome. But to connect your thoughts and who you are to AI is, I feel, absolutely anti-human and evil. And then you think, who's going to the centralization of all this. It's one thing for us all to be able to use the internet and electronics and communicate and et cetera, et cetera. It's another thing when it's all centralized and somebody has all that power to control the flow of information and communication and ideas. That's never good. But I've always been against the centralization of power of any sort anyway. Most of my adult life, I've been an anarchist or non-statist or voluntarist, however you want to term it. And anarchy comes from the term anarchos, which means no rulers. Doesn't mean no rules or, rules of nature, laws of nature, being civilized and things like that, or doesn't even mean anti-culture or anything like that. Well, with my background, I've also been, let's just put it this way, I was around a lot of self-proclaimed white nationalists. Now, I've never been a white nationalist because I've never been a statist, but I was interested in genetics and culture and racial issues and things like that. Let's just put it that way. And mainly from a theological point of view, because the particular theology I had gotten myself into, the particular brand of Christianity I'd gotten myself into. Anyhow, it's in the past. And in 2016, I began to look into metaphysics and mysticism and the occult and Christian mysticism, and I was curious about that because I was interested in how prophetic messages that I have seen come to pass and the miracles that I have seen and experienced my own self. Answered prayer. So I was like, okay, let me look into this Christian mysticism stuff. I know it's like, I might be getting into the occult, and I don't want to worship the devil or nothing. So I got looking into that. By 2019, I was totally, I walked away from all of that. But I do have a history of being around people, white nationalists, and I was history of also being around people that, they talk about Donald Trump being a white nationalist. And I can tell you right now, he's not. Never was. He's not a racist, none of that. Now, that's not to say that I support Donald Trump. I don't support any politician. I don't support any statist system at all. I don't believe in rulers, and I don't believe in, people making rules for other people to obey. That is, legislators, politicians, kings, emperors, tyrants. It doesn't matter. They're all tyrants to me. That they can make policy for other people to, and that's what happens when you vote. You're voting for someone to make rules or policy for someone else, and then you have police or policy enforcers. But anyhow, that's a different video. I've already made one video about this anyhow. You'll see it in the Thinking Out Loud section. This video is just, like I said, I've always been against him. And the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, had a page about me back in 2015-16. I was making videos, and I had a website. I don't have any anymore, and I don't have the YouTube channel I was making the videos on, where I was trying to speak out against Donald Trump, and I was trying to tell white nationalists and people that are interested in racial and other issues that I was at the time, that he was not, he's not for us. If anything, he's a Zionist politically. So, that's the way I look at it. Hopefully this video won't get deleted, but if it does, whatever, I'll find another way to communicate my beliefs. But anyhow, I will never be stopped, YouTube. So, fuck censorship. But anyhow, let me get to my point as quickly as I can here. And I know I'm going to have to make a second part to this during my lunch break. But anyhow, and I'm going to put some images in here to express what I want to share. A few years ago, I was reading and listening to stuff about, what Rudolf Steiner, he was a mystic in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He was a German one. As a matter of fact, the National Socialists of Germany did not like him very much. Let's put it that way. He was a German, and but he was a German mystic and metaphysician and a clairvoyant. And he said he's seen a being that he called Ahriman. Now, Ahriman is a character from the Zoroastrian religion. He's basically the Antichrist, the devil type thing. And he said that this being would actually come as another, kind of like in Christianity talks about the Antichrist will come in the flesh, with an actual man. Well, he said that this Ahriman, or the Antichrist, or antichristed mind, or anointed mind, or anti-spiritual type person with that kind of agenda, anti-spirituality and things like that, would come and big, kind of like the Book of Revelation Antichrist kind of guy. So anyhow, he said he's seen Ahriman, this Ahrimanic character. He said he's seen him in a vision or whatever, a clairvoyant type vision, and so he sculpted out what kind of what he looked like to him. And so what he did was, he puts that sculpture still exists. You can find the image on the internet. Just type in Rudolf Steiner Ahriman, and I'm going to put that image in this video after I get through here rambling. Try not to ramble. And I always thought to myself, chuckled to myself, he looks like Donald Trump. Donald Trump has that, that iconic frown and things like that. Well. Ahriman is very anti-spiritual minded and is for the transhumanist agenda and keeping you, what the Bible uses the term carnal minded, keeping you earthly minded, carnal, earthly minded, and not spiritually minded. Now, that's not to say that you should be so spiritually minded that you're one of these new agers, loving light and everything's all wonderful. No, I believe that we're spiritual beings here to live an earthly life, and it's a balance between the two. Well, some people want to make you so spiritual that you're just, useless. And other people want you to be so earthly minded and materialistically minded. And materialism and materialistic doesn't mean just money and buying things. It means the material world. You have the scientists that are all about materialism, and they only what they can see, touch, hear, smell, whatever, or in a lab or whatever. That's the only truth. And then you have quantum physicists who say, there's an unseen a mechanism behind nature, and that's what I'm metaphysician myself, if you will, person who's interested in metaphysics and the mystics and the mysticisms and the occult, the esoteric, which those terms simply mean hidden. It's just hidden to those who are, like the Bible talks about, the truth is hidden to those who are carnally minded and things like that. Well, it's true. So, materialistically or earthly minded, only, they're biased only towards that. So, for me, with Donald Trump and now Elon Musk is the World Economic Forum guy. He's also very much in the transhumanist agenda. It's just a nicer, kindler version, And the devil always comes to you, as a nice guy, right? And it's just kind of funny to me, the whole Kamala Harris type thing going on. It's almost like they want her to lose on purpose, and they want people to think, oh, you won something. Look, you got Donald Trump. That's what it looks like to me. It's a setup. You're being set up. Now, I don't support any politician, any status system whatsoever. I believe mankind can get along just fine without that kind of crap. But anyhow, and yes, the roads would get built and everything. Probably better and maintained better. But anyhow, I don't believe in corporatism and corporations running the world, because to me the governments are nothing but the enforcement arm of corporations, and have always been for that. But that's a whole different story. Like Richard Kelly Hoskins said in his book In the Beginning, he says the merchant must establish the king to protect him and promote his interests, and that's true. Sadism has always been, I believe, just the extension of the wealth and the elitist-minded people, the elitism. And that's what the World Economic Forum people are and things like that. They're elitist. They have this elitist mindset. And the World Economic Forum, and then you've got a member of that, which is, and he's not the only member that's been very open about this transhumanist agenda and make us all part of the Borg and that we must assimilate, is Elon Musk with his Starlink and his thousands of satellites and things like that, and all this kind of crap that he's got going on. And then he buys Twitter and X, and someone pointed out in a video I watched a while back, they pointed out something pretty accurate. They said he buys up Twitter, turns it into X, but why wouldn't he buy Twitter? He's getting all kinds of information on people. Now, there is somebody who follows the Steiner teachings, who I've seen that they have a video where they mentioned that maybe Mark Zuckerberg is Ahriman and wants to tie us to the earth and tie us to this, earthliness and not individual freedom. And by the way, Steiner was very big about individual freedom and liberties, and so am I, and always have been. But like so the ADL, putting me down as saying, they said, well, one guy, he's into the white nationalist, which I never was white nationalist, but anyhow, they put it up on the website, which is still there in their archive, saying that, quoting me off my website, saying, he doesn't support Donald Trump because he knows Donald Trump is, or he says that Donald Trump is not a white nationalist and doesn't support white nationalist agendas. And he doesn't. He's not. He's a Zionist. But although I am no longer involved in that world, and I am totally in a position, and I see things totally different now, and I don't go any of that kind of stuff. Anyway, my point being is, I'm going to put the images up, and you just decide for yourself if you understand who Steiner is and things like that. And it's like, he is for a transhumanist agenda, Elon Musk is, and, if you don't know anything about Donald Trump, if you've never seen the documentary You've Been Trumped, if you're not familiar with what he did in Mini Scotland there and how he used eminent domain and basically bullied and treated people like dog shit, Donald Trump, I said back then in 2015 and 2016 when I was in a different ideology, and I still believe it to this day, I believe he's very much a narcissist. I believe he is in the psychopathy spectrum, absolutely. And he seems nice, but if you dare go against him, well, narcissists and psychopaths, sociopaths are nice until you go against them. They'll be nice to you if it serves their agenda, but if you go against them, they will do everything. And Trump is always, he's a very, people think he was hateful during the political campaigns and stuff, the previous one and the one now. He was an asshole. Look up the Mini Scotland documentary, You've Been Trumped. He's a ruthless individual. And by the way, Donald Trump is owned. He's very much in debt. So anyhow, that is what that is. But to me, I just see this agenda going on. I can see this transhumanist agenda, and it's always going to come in as the sweet, nice guy who just cares all about you. He's the populist and things. So anyway, check out these images that I'm going to post in this video here, and just, if you know who Steiner is, or Ahriman, his concept about Ahriman and the Archon and things like that, just check it out. But that's my thoughts, and I'll put this video in my Thinking Out Loud. Once I get it edited together, I will put it in my Thinking Out Loud playlist, and hopefully the YouTube algorithm won't be upset with me and censor it. But if I do, fuck them. I'm never going to stop expressing myself. I'm going to be my true self. And you too, be your true, authentic self, and you don't need to be tied to or controlled by politicians or machines or corporations. Okay, it's lunchtime. I'm here in my truck. I'm going to finish up this video. I want to make the point that there is well, let me start out with this. There is a channel on YouTube, at least one of them. There's actually a couple I found, but one that I can think of particularly right now, that his whole channel is based on the belief that Donald Trump is the biblical Antichrist. And he gives the biblical attributes, of what the the Antichrist would be, and he matches it up to Trump, and whatever, right? Hell, I've been hearing people saying certain so and so is the Antichrist, and this person's the Antichrist for my 50 plus years on this planet. So, anyhow, and the whole thing about Ahriman and Rudolf Steiner's concept of Ahriman, or the archetype. There's an archetype of Christ. There's an archetype of any person, anything. Superman, Batman, for that man. It's the Joker. It's an archetype, right? An archetype of a mindset, of a personality. Well, anyhow, you know what an archetype is. Well, Ahriman is an archetype. Now, Steiner, he talked about him being, an actual physical person, and people talk about the Antichrist in the New Testament, Book of Revelation being a real person. What's interesting to me is it's not whether Donald Trump is the Antichrist or Ahriman or anything like that. To me, it's just that Donald Trump seemingly is very much like that archetype, at least in my perception and understanding. But at the same time, Rudolf Steiner was teaching and had taught, and again, his teachings were in the late 1800s, early 1900s. His teachings, a lot of them were about the split in mankind that would come in the future, the spiritual mental split, the splitting of the spheres, if you will, and basically an old earth, new earth type thing. And those that want to spiritually evolve would split away from those who want to stay material and actually want to materially not evolve but devolve and become more connected to the earth and materialism and technology and things like that. And we certainly can see that. We see the transhumanist agenda and things like that. And Trump with Elon Musk, it's there. It's absolutely there. And it behooves the corporations and the industries, banking industries and things like that, and of course the technological industries what is it? We're always watched. Our phones are listened to. It's not so much the government as the corporations. You can mention a thing and then an ad will come up, and you know how it works. And the corporations watch you. So, with that said, in the splitting, there was another clairvoyant later on, not in Steiner's day, but later on, named Dolores Cannon, and she talked about the splitting that would come, this new earth, old earth type split. Those that want to be more spiritually minded and evolve towards that way, mankind will take that. Those of that will, that mindset will, split away, and it'll be like a splitting of the two worlds, and that we can see it. Now, you learn in metaphysics and mysticism that your reality is not so objective, that it is more like subjective and subject to what you perceive it to be. Like if you perceive yourself to be poor or lonely or ill or, whatever, then that's your reality will have to prove that. And, of course, there's plenty on YouTube and the internet and in libraries to learn about metaphysics and things like that. And some people think of it as just law of attraction. It's a little bit more than that. Law of attraction actually is based more on the Kybalian's law of correspondence. But anyhow, it's all mental. It's all the mind. So as far as Steiner's Ahriman and my, I can't help but think that his portrayal, his sculpture of Ahriman's head and face looks very much like, I just see the Donald Trump looks. And if you didn't, the images that I put in this video, you can, of course, I've already put those images. You can pause, and I'm gonna put them again at the end of this video too. But to me, it's just about which way. It's kind of like I had a dream about Donald Trump one time, and it wasn't that he was a bad person. He was in a grocery store with me and my wife. We were shopping. I looked over, and we were like in the meat section or whatever, in dairy. I don't know, but anyhow, I was bending over to get something. I looked over, and he was bending over to get something. He was a little ways away from me, and he just kind of looked at me. And I always thought that dream was, I've had dreams that come to pass or had meaning that proved to be true. So I wondered, what in the world, what does that mean? And I told my wife about it, and I bring it up every now and then. And I said, maybe the dream just means that, in the end, he's got his issues, and I do believe he has psychopathy. I believe the man's a fucking narcissist, straight up, textbook narcissist. But perhaps he, at the same time, he has to eat the same food, so he's not out to get us. I don't know. It's just interesting. But it goes how you choose. I choose a better world where, yeah, we can have technology, but technology doesn't run our lives. And it's a tool we use and things like that. But for communication, education, and AI in itself, artificial intelligence is handy, you know, if you use Google Maps or things like that. But I don't like the idea that Google keeps up with me and where I'm at, and my whereabouts, and listens to me on my phone and watches what I text and everything. I don't care for that, and that's none of their goddamn business. But I like it. The technology and the internet was decentralized, and no one had a monopoly where they could gather all of our intel. But anyway, it's like the Amish and the Mennonites. They're not anti-technology. They just believe it should be slowed down for man to be able to evolve with it and spiritually evolve with it. And I agree with that. And I'm not Amish or Mennonite, never have been, but I can absolutely agree that we do need to slow down. I'm not a Luddite. Obviously, I'm using a cell phone camera and the internet and shit. I'm not a Luddite. I operate heavy equipment. I own this pickup truck here I'm sitting in during my lunch break. But at the same time, I believe that I'm a human supremacist. I believe that human beings are to be, we are here to live this life with nature and the trees. I'm looking across the street here from work, and I see trees and things like that. Trees and plants and birds and bees and all this cool stuff, and work with nature and not try to dominate it and control it. And as far as individual liberty and freedom, like I said, Steiner spoke about that. So I believe, as far as whether Trump is some Antichrist or Ahrimanic guy or just, whatever, the point being is, how's he going to affect me? Well, it doesn't matter who becomes president or who becomes emperor of the world, for that matter. I don't give a shit, because I am free. I am free because I know who I am now. Since 2019, I started to really understand. I first began to learn metaphysics and mysticism in 2016. In 2019 and since, I have become to understand that we're all God, if you believe in a God for that matter. We're all God. We're all of the one mind. And those that, they're interested in their five senses and only what they can see, touch, smell, hear, taste, and only the material world, the physical world, then that they're going to live in that matrix, and life is going to prove that to them. But those of us that believe that life is more magical and wonderful and goes how we think and what we focus upon and what we believe is true for ourselves individually, then the outer world, your outer personal world, will reflect that no matter what's going on with everybody else. And so while the world is being flooded away, to use a biblical term, because I studied the Bible for 37 years, since I was 13 years old, very religiously, no pun intended, fanatically so. And so I know the Bible very well. So we'll just use the biblical story of Noah and the flood. You notice that he had to pitch or tar his ark on the inside and the out. And that's sealing himself. The Bible talks about being sealed until the day of redemption. Well, every day is your day of redemption if you choose it to be. Look up, for your redemption draws nigh. The Bible says, look up into the mind. As above, so below. The kingdom of heaven, all of that is the mind. There's no up in space, for that matter. It's talking about here. It's talking about not your physical carnal mind, but your spirit, and listening to it. And so maybe for some people, the materialistic minded people, whoever is the archon, whoever is Antichrist, and the technocrats of the world, and the bureaucrats and the tyrants and all of that, that will affect those that aren't of spiritual mind, don't understand that they control the reality first within their mind. As above, so below. Whatsoever you bind on earth or loose on earth shall be bound or loosed in heaven, and the other way around. And heaven is your mind, and the earth is your physical reality. And so when you understand that, and you begin to live that, it doesn't matter who's the president, who's in power, political power. They're not power over you. They don't have power over you. But you have to declare that. You have to declare your sovereignty. You have to become the person you were potentially born to be. And you come here seemingly as a fallen God, but not. You're not a fallen God. You are a son of God. You are God in the flesh, but you have to understand that, and you get to decide. But if you look on the outside world and watch politics and who's in charge, then I'd have to say if Trump gets this election thing or selection, if he gets that, which it looks like that's probably what he's doing, what's going on, and the whole Camellia thing was all set up in the first place, maybe the Biden administration was put in on purpose to make everybody really scream out and go along with whatever Trump puts in. If he becomes president, whatever he puts in. That's the outer world. That's the dead world splitting away from the spiritual world that Steiner spoke of, and that people like Dolores Cannon prophesied of, clairvoyance and stuff like that talked about. And these Christians that have all these visions and dreams about the Antichrist mark, maybe that's just the transhumanism. Maybe things aren't literally like that. Kind of like the Bible is not literal. For many years, over 30 years, almost 40 years, I took the Bible literally. And it was a Christian mystic named Neville Goddard and another one, Florence Scovel Shinn, that first introduced me through their writings. They're, of course, passed away. And introduced me to seeing the Bible, not literally, but as a book full of, that every character in the Bible, whether it's King David, Adam, Samson, whoever, is nothing but a mental archetype, a state of mind, a mental state that you can be in. And so, when you begin to understand that, when you begin to see that life is a dream, God is dreaming through us. It's a lucid dream. And when you wake up to that fact that you're in a lucid dream, and that basically your body is like a virtual reality goggles thing, and you're a Sims character, and when you wake up, which is when you die, you actually wake up and realize that you are a node of God. You are a soul, a spirit, a ray of God. And so this lucid dream goes, so you know what? I'm going to say that things are good. It doesn't matter what the economy says. Oh, I was going to say about the Christians, they're having the dreams about, the earthquake and the New Madrid splitting and the Michigan lakes flowing into the Gulf of Mexico through the Mississippi and all that. It's a splitting of America. That's a splitting of the world. The shaking that they see, the flooding that they see, water is a symbol of spirit and mind. What these earthquakes and these great tsunamis and stuff that Christians and other people see in visions and dreams is really spiritual. And the mark of the beast and all the beheading. What is the beheading? To cut off your head to where you can't think for yourself. So it doesn't matter if Trump is actually the Ahriman and the Antichrist himself. If you are already in heaven in your mind, no matter what goes on in the economy, no matter what goes on in this world, you say you're fine, and you will be fine, because it goes as you say. So even if Donald Trump is Ahriman, and he's the Antichrist himself, you are the Christ. You are a son of God, and it goes as you say. Check out these images again. If anything, it's just fun for me. Steiner's Ahriman and Donald Trump, they look so much alike.